Okay, I have 6:03, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If everybody would take a seat. Okay, so before we begin, I'd like to offer an invocation and the pledge, so if you'd like to join me, please. Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for your many blessings. Lord, we ask for your guidance in this meeting. Be with us, give us wisdom and understanding as we go through the budget. And we do this on behalf of the taxpayers and the citizens of Clay County. We thank you for all your many blessings, and we ask that you be with us now. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the special meeting of July 28th, 2015 at the Clay County School Board. Okay, I'd like to welcome those of you and thank you for taking your time out of your day to attend this board meeting and public hearing. This meeting is our opportunity as your elected representatives to collaborate openly and make decisions that will decide the future direction of our public schools and the education of our children here in Clay County. If you wish to address the board, there will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting, special meeting, for you to speak for 3 minutes. Please fill out a card, which you will find located in the back of the room, indicating the specific item number or topic that you wish to speak about, and turn it in promptly. Your participation is welcomed and appreciated. Okay, at this time, before we begin, I would like to make an announcement. I'm sorry, what? Yes. Let the record reflect that I am going to be declaring, we're going to be adding 2 items to the agenda as an emergency, 2 emergency items. These items are 2 resolutions that we will need to adopt. And the reason why we're declaring it emergency is because of the trim guidelines and the necessity to get this done today. So the other thing that I just want to state for the record is that the superintendent, Mr. Van Zant, is not here today, and sitting in his seat is our deputy superintendent, Ms. Diane Cornegay. Okay? So with that, item number 1 is to review the rollback rate calculation and the 2015-16 millages. Mrs. Legutko.
Good evening, Miss Superintendent, Madam Chair, and board members. Before I get to my presentation, I'd like to recognize 2 of my employees that represent the Business Affairs Division. Miss Nancy Racine, who is the Director of Purchasing. She's responsible for all of the purchasing, processing, the contracts, those types of activities. She is the one reviewing those contracts that follow board policies, so she's ensuring that we are abiding by the policies of the board. And second person is Sonia Finley, who is our Director of Finance, and she is the person who is a core assistant, I would say, in assisting me in getting that the budget completed, and ensuring that I have a balanced budget, and to make sure that all of the lines, all of the budgets, everything that we're about is in the right spots. And so I'd like to recognize those 2 of my key employees. Okay, so with that, today's presentation will include, of course, the agenda items. 1, review the rollback rate calculations and the 2015-16 millages. Review the tentative budget for 2015-16, all funds. And, of course, go into the public hearings and adopt the various various millage rates. With that being said, Okay. I'd like to read what the explanation of the rollback rate really means. Rollback rate, the millage rate for the new year, which would produce the same level of ad valorem tax revenue as was levied in the prior year. After adjusting the new year's taxable property value by backing out net new construction and certain deletions. In other words, the rollback rate is the new millage rate that it would take to produce the same amount of property tax revenue using the new property tax roll, as was produced the year before by prior year actual millage rates and the prior year tax roll. The theory behind the rollback rate is to maintain a constant revenue stream from the local property tax sources. Presumably, as the tax roll increases in value, the millage rate would drop proportionately. Unfortunately, this theory does not provide for funding student enrollment growth, nor does it allow for basic inflationary cost increases. A third limitation is the historical trend towards rapidly declining state revenues expressed as a percentage of school board operating and capital outlay budget. With that being said, what is the rollback rate? And this isn't on the slide, but I'm going to just talk a little bit about it. The rollback rate is really that rate that generates the same amount of property tax revenue as approved for the prior year, which was about $69 million. This year would be $71 million based on the rates that we've the state has certified. Again, it says right there on that the second one. On the first one where it says adjusting the new year's taxable value by backing out net new construction and certain deletions. That is a component of the calculation. It's a math calculation, and what the theory behind it is that they would less the allowances for new construction, additions, deletions, improvements, increasing values by at least 100%, any of your tangible properties, and that value was about $180 million. So once they've taken the value of last year's, value of last year less these adjustments, the value of our taxes, our taxable value, I think it was about I'm guessing here, it was about $190 million, around there. Remember that DR 420 form that I shared with you last year, and the property appraiser, he's the one that actually, or that office is the office that actually provides us with those numbers. Once that information is given, it is then certified by the state. The state is then required to identify what that required local effort is so that we can participate in the state funding formula. What that means is we have no control of levying those, adjusting for that millage rate. What the state says that we've got to levy, that is what we've got to do. If there's anything else that's above and beyond, again, that is beyond our control at that point. It is pretty much based on the taxpayers, based on referendums, based on other activities that will allow us to do anything above the amount that the state is requiring us to levy.
Thank you for clarifying that, because some people think that that it's optional, that we have the right to move that required local effort up or down to our wishes, and this is what is required in order for us to get funding.
Right.
So we don't have any discretion over that.
Correct. The second slide is basically a history of our millage levy. As you can see, our from 08-09 to 15-16, our levies for required just total mill levy in general has gone up and down. It started at 7.6. It increased in 9-10 to 7.7, 7.8, 7.9. and then it started to drop, 7.3, 7.2, and now it's at 7.1. I'm going to read something here. It says, when the tax base increases, the rollback rate is less than the prior year. When the tax base decreases, the rollback rate is more than the prior year. In effect, it's a roll-up rate, not a rollback rate. So we have been actually from 13-14 through 15-16, we have been experiencing a rollback rate because the tax rate, the tax base is increasing. Yeah, you went from the, I can't remember, I'm sorry, but okay, our taxes were, last year was 69, this year it's 71, so it's going up. Our increases for the property is going up. That means the rates are going to go down. So if you follow that logic,
It still seems odd to me that we're advertising a tax increase when, you know, it's a savings of, what did we say last? $15 for every 100,000. It seems just so backwards.
This is talked about every year.
I know.
For the last 22 years.
And actually,
why do we have
spoke
to
about
advertise
it
this thing?
too, so, yeah.
As an
I'm
increase.
sure I'm not
yeah.
the only one calling and saying, explain this again to me.
It's just hard to understand.
Thank you for going over it.
okay, so again, this is really a history of our millage levies for the last 8 years. Okay, based on this information, our 2015-16 millage rate, proposed millage rate, will be required local effort 4.8890, basic discretionary 0.748, basic local capital improvement 1.5, a total millage of 7.137. Of course, the dollars generated by those by the millage rate would be a total of $71,032,851. Of that, $56,708,76 is operating, and $14,331,971 is capital improvement dollars.
Okay.
And of course, this was advertised this past Thursday in the Clay Today newspaper. Okay, again, you're familiar with this slide. This is really the impact on based on a $150,000 home with a $50,000 homestead exemption. Of course, your value assessed is at $150 less the $50,000 homestead. Last year's taxable value with $100,000 would be worth $722 in local taxes from the school board. The 2015, again, $100,000, keeping the same value of that home at the 7.137 mils would generate $713.70 tax, which is about an $8.30 savings. But keep in mind, your property has changed. That value of your property changed from last year to this year. You now have a more value. Of course, the economy, with it getting better, you know, hopefully your homes are going back up. But again, you would experience a savings, but because your value have gone up, there is a tax increase. And again, one of the other things I wanted to share with you is that in 10-11, the state or statute now requires us to budget at 96%. In the past, we were budgeting at 95%. That 96% represents $68 million of the $71 million dollars. Okay. Okay, this is the total tentative budget that was presented in the newspaper, advertised. Total budget of all funds is, I'm sorry, it's so tiny, 325, 522, 918.
Yep.
Yeah, this is not an eye test. Okay, so what I'd like to say here, though, is even this is the total budget for the district. This represents 4 funding sources. Your general fund, which is part of the required local effort. There's miscellaneous revenue comes in. There is the federal revenue, which pretty much is ROTC, those types of dollars. And then, of course, your special revenue is your food service, and it's your federal dollars, such as Title I, your Title I, Title II, Title III dollars. Your debt service are those debt that we are required to pay. I believe I went through the total debt that we have so far, and then each annual payment. And then, of course, our capital projects, which represents those projects that were advertised in the newspaper this past Thursday. Now, what I do want to share with you, though, out of that entire budget, out of the state, I wanted to say, how does the state generate the funds it allocates to school districts for operating costs? Again, this is something that I really want to emphasize, that we do not control the millage rates. I mean, that is from the state or the Florida statute that requires us to levy a certain amount of millage rate to generate the amount of dollars that we need to participate in the FEFP. And I'd like to read this because this is in the statute, or this is in another, some of my research that I've been doing on this. Even though the Constitution prohibits the state from directly levying a property tax, the legislature circumvents the ban by requiring school boards to do the job. In order to participate in the state education system, the school board must levy a specific required local effort dictated by the legislature. Florida Statute 1011.62 F(a). Funds for operating of schools' estimated taxable value calculation. And again, it goes into the dates of where I remember I said that I needed certification from the state. Not later than 2 working days prior to July 19th, the Department of Revenue shall certify the Commissioner of Education its most recent estimate of taxable value for school purposes in each school district, and the total for all school districts in the state for the current calendar year, based on the latest available data obtained from the local property appraisers. The value certified shall be the taxable value for school purposes for that year, and no further adjustment shall be made except those made pursuant to paragraph C and D, and or assessment roll change required by final judicial decisions as specified in paragraph 14 paren B. And then, of course, no later than July 19th, the Commissioner of Education shall compute a millage rate rounded to the nearest highest 100,000th of a mill, which when applied to the 96% of the estimated state and total taxable values for all districts. The Commissioner of Education shall certify to each school district board the millage rate computed as prescribed in this subparagraph as the minimum millage rate necessary to provide the district required local effort for that school year. With that being said, this budget here, the total overall budget 2015, of which our 80% of our overall budget represents the general fund. 75% of that 80% represents the funding from the state. So in order for the district to generate $195 million, the district is required to generate approximately $71 million in required local effort. Hence, my total budget. Okay. Again, I just wanted you to share with you the notice of the capital outlay. This represents part of the overall budget for 300, the capital outlay funds. And these are a summary of the projects that we will be supporting for next year: the construction, remodeling, maintenance, renovations and repairs, the motor vehicle purchases, of course, new and replacement equipment, computers, ERP system, electronic learning systems. Of course, part of those dollars goes to pay our debt. And part of the dollars go to pay for our premium for property and casualty insurance and to ensure education and ancillary plans for the school district.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The motor vehicle purchases, is that just buses or is that the white fleet also?
Mr. Merrill?
How many? How many vehicles are you expecting to purchase in the white fleet?
None right at this point, but as they die, it's been advertised so that we will be able to use that fund to replace them if we have to.
Okay, thank you.
But I'll have to check with transportation, but right now I don't know of any right off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next steps. The adoption of the resolution, the millage rates, tentative budget, and of course to set the final budget hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Legutko. Does anybody else have any questions, Ms. Legutko? Okay.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yep. Appreciate that. Okay. At this point, I'd like to open the public hearing for comments on the 2015-16 budget and millages. Is there anybody here that would like to make a comment? You can take a... There you go. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Some of you know me already. It's good to see you again. Congratulations on your winning, letting the people vote for the superintendent. That was good. Thank you. I'm glad to see 7 women on the board. You know, we all know what 20,000 women have done, right? The laws against drinking and driving. Well, I'm here to ask you to stand up against the NFL. And I'd like to know what kind of money this school's spending on the NFL, or not the NFL, but football. It's something that, you know, we need to really look at seriously. In Illinois, there's a child suing the school for the injuries that they received. So, I was also talking to one of the county commissioners, and the school really doesn't need as much property if they didn't have football. You know, people say that, you know, it creates sportsmanship like there's no other sport out there. There's no other sport that'll teach them sportsmanship. I don't believe that. I don't believe that for 1 minute.
Mr. Otto, excuse me, but this is a public hearing on our budget, and
Okay.
do you have comments regarding the budget?
So
If
more
you
of
do-
this needs to be at the end of the meeting. I would like to ask specifically, how much money do you spend on football? That would be my question for the budget.
Okay. I will certainly get that figure back to you. I don't think anybody has that figure on the top of their head.
Yes, ma'am, I
Okay.
understand. And how much ground could you get rid of? How much ground does the school board really need to function without football? Okay. And is there room to have a doctor on board instead of a nurse? I understand that you all have a nurse, a registered nurse at your school, and that's very good. But all the schools need registered nurses if there's any sports whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Ms. Paiva?
Good afternoon. Renly Paiva, representing CCEA. Comments, can I ask questions too? Or is it just comments?
Questions are allowed.
Yeah, you can ask questions.
I thought so.
Yep.
Okay, appreciate it. First of all, on the budget, the concern of the teachers, of course, is when we look at the salaries and benefits, we cut 80 positions. And 80 positions, we were told, would generate $4.1 million. And the district cut positions and close to $1 million that they saved. So that's $5.1 million. But yet, if you look at the budget from last year to this year in salary and benefits, we increased our salary and benefits by almost $500,000. So that is a question of how can that be. And please God, don't come back and say benefits went up that high, because there's no way benefits are going to negate $5.1 million. So that is a question that every teacher is asking themselves now. So I need to ask that. My second question or comment is that millage makes no sense. Okay, I'm going to go on the record and say that makes no sense. Property values in 2008 and 2007 were far higher than they are now. There was a housing boom. You cannot have that millage rate going up, up, up. If you put that slide back up, 2008, 2009, 2010, going up, up, up. And when we still in Clay County haven't come out of the whatever massive recession, and all of a sudden it's down, 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 that roll back or roll up or whatever we want to call it. It makes no sense. So my third question, because that was a comment, to this board is this board powerless to increase revenue? And that's a question, because I'm hearing that the state has to say, you know, we don't have any choice in this rollback. So I need this board to say, we're in financial difficulty. We continually have no raises to, so who's it on the backs of? The teachers. So my question is this board powerless to increase the revenue, the local revenue of Clay County? Thank you.
Can I, maybe we need to have a discussion, but I think we are, because I think if we were to do that, it has to go out for a vote. Doesn't it have to be a referendum?
Yes.
If you'll recall, you've seen it on TV, St. Johns County School Board is going out for a sales tax.
Right.
And it
By
has to go to
referendum.
the public. And if you'll look back on this history of the mill levies, I mean, in the past we had the .250 supplemental discretionary. We also had the, we have been reduced on the capital outlay. It went from 1.750 to 1.5. And let's see. And then the critical operating needs levy, it's 0.00. We used to, I mean, we are doing all that we can do except going out to the public and asking them to vote themselves an increase, and either, you know, like sales tax or something.
Ms. Legutko, correct me if I'm wrong. This is my understanding, and I just want to make sure that I understand it correctly. But when we say that this is the required mill levies that we have to levy in order to receive the total funding from the state. So in other words, this is what we have to levy in order to get all the rest of the funding from the state. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correct?
Yes.
So we're levying 71 million locally from the county, correct? Is that my understanding? And then the rest of it comes through tax dollars through the state? Is that my understanding? Whoops.
That's correct. The
Okay.
71 million will be generated by the millage rates that you
Correct.
will adopt today
Correct.
to generate the amount of dollars that I recognize from the state.
Okay. All right.
It kind of seems ridiculous to me that we're even having this meeting and taking this vote when it's totally out of our control. We
Right.
can't say, we'll leave it where it's at and let's get that extra $8
Yeah.
from every 100,000 and go from there.
Right.
I mean, it's out of our control, so
This, Madam Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to address Ms. Piva on this, because this really goes, and I hate to do this, but I'm going to say it again, this goes back to Tallahassee. They're the ones who set the way this formula works, everything. We are told what we have to levy, and, you know, you may not like it, but, you know, we don't have the luxury of refusing
Right.
funding. So this is the way it is.
But I think
and
she's
unless we go
asking-
out for a sales tax or something, and, you know, I know everybody wants to jump up and ask the citizens to vote themselves in a tax right now.
Well, my understanding is it's even more complex than that, in that if our citizens of Clay County voted to increase the millage, so if they voted and said we will pay 2 additional mills in property taxes to go to the schools, what Tallahassee would then do is reduce the amount they provided in the same amount that generated. And so really, we only have two options. One is the impact fees that we currently have in place, so we can't go anywhere else with those, and the other would be a sales tax.
We would lose that $800,000 that we get
Correct.
to make up the difference.
Correct.
And
So-
without those impact fees, that's what we're using to pay debt service, so,
Gotta have that.
and we've got a little pot for 5 or 6 years. Hopefully, we'll have enough to build a school at that point, but we're kind of in a catch-22.
I did ask Ms. Legutko if when she gets time, when she's done with budget things, I asked her privately if she could find out if it would be more beneficial if we had a sales tax in place instead of those impact fees. I just was curious as to the amount we would generate, if it would generate more, since we do butt up to so many different counties where we have people coming into Clay to spend money. But obviously, that's way out in the future, but I would just put out there that I did ask her about.
It'd have to be voted on the next election.
Right.
Right.
But might help it if we knew that it would generate a lot more for our schools.
Okay. Any other comments for the public hearing? Okay, I will close the public hearing and bring this back to the board. The first item will be item 3A, to adopt the resolution 16.01. Do I have a motion?
And Ms. Legutko is putting that on the overhead
Yeah,
for everybody
if you could go ahead and put
see.
that up there, Ms. Legutko.
I move that the board adopt the resolution 16-01 determining tentative millages to be levied for the fiscal year 15-16.
Hold on, let her finish.
Sorry, it's a long one. Included are required local effort 4.889, basic discretionary 0.748, local capital improvement 1.500, total millages 7.137, revenues generated by this levy, general operating 56,700,876, local capital improvement 14,331,975, for total revenues of 71,032,851.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Karakis. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item will be item 3B, and this will be adopting a resolution 16.02. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board adopt the resolution 16-02, adopting the tentative budget for the fiscal year 2015/2016 in the amount of $325,522,918.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Karakis and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, our next item up will be item 4, adopt the 15-16 required local mill levy.
I move that the board adopt the required local effort mill levy of 4.889 mil, which is 0.46% more than the rollback rate.
I have a motion from Ms. Studdard. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item is to adopt the basic discretionary operating levy.
I move the board adopt the basic discretionary operating levy of 0.748 mils.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The next item up is the motion to adopt the local capital improvement fund mill levy.
I move that the board adopt the local capital improvement fund levy fund mill levy of 1.5 mils.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Karakis and a second by Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the, oh, I'm sorry, did you?
That's okay. Go ahead.
I move that the board adopt the tentative 15-16 through 19-20 educational facilities plan.
Skipped one.
Second. Or did you,
I thought we just did the,
didn't we just do the total mill levy?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Or
No,
did we
no,
just do the
we did
1.500?
Yeah, we did C.
Did we skip
Right.
one?
Yeah.
All right, we need to
D.
back up then.
Okay, so let's go back. So, we are on the local capital improvement fund mill levy. That's the
No.
one?
No, we
No.
did that one.
We did that
I
one.
made the motion for that.
We're on
We're on
the
the next
total
one.
Adopt the total 15-16 total mill levy.
Okay. I move that the board adopt the 15-16 total mill levy of 7.137 mils.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Gilhousen and a second by Ms. Studdard. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item is motion to adopt the tentative education facilities plan for 15-16 through 19-20.
I move that the board adopt the tentative 2015-16 through 2019-20 educational facilities plan.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Studdard and a second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. And the next item is to adopt the 15-16 tentative budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2015 through June 30th, 2016 as it's presented.
I move that the board adopt the tentative budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2015 to June 30th, 2016 as presented.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Condon and a second by Ms. Karakis. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. All right. The next item is motion for the board to schedule the required public hearing to adopt the millage rate.
I move that the board schedule the required public hearing to adopt the final millage rates and adopt the final budget for Thursday, September 10th, 2015, at 6 p.m. to be held at the Teacher Training Center Boardroom, 2233 Village Square Parkway, Fleming Island, Florida.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Karakis and a second by who? Is that Ms. Gilhousen? By Ms. Gilhousen. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the last item we have up here is daily hours for teachers.
No.
Wait just a
we have
minute,
one more.
Madam
Did I
Chairman.
miss one?
On the sheet that we have, I was just looking at this, it's not on the agenda either. It's another motion on the bottom of the second page that Ms. Legutko gave us.
To authorize the superintendent.
To advise the property appraiser of the
Okay.
proposed tentative millage rate, including the required rollback
Yeah.
rate. Does somebody want to go ahead and read
All
that?
right. I move that the board authorize the superintendent to advise the property appraiser of the proposed tentative millage rate, including the required rollback rates and the date, time, and place of the final budget hearing to be held on Thursday, September 10th, 2015 at 6 p.m. to be held at the Teacher Training Center Boardroom. I'm wondering, that wasn't on the agenda,
Yeah,
but what do we do? Do we go back and add that to the emergency items?
Because it's not a resolution, I think we're just authorizing them to do the advertisement. I don't think we have to
All right.
declare that as emergency.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, great. So I have a motion by Ms. Studdard. Do I have a second?
Oh, I second.
And a second by Ms. Condon.
Wait. Anytime we take an action item, it has to be, anytime we take action, it has to be on the agenda, doesn't it? Which means that I don't think we can vote on this if it's not on our agenda.
Well, she could go back and put it in the emergency stuff.
Is it?
If you want to treat it as emergency, you can. If you you want to do that. I don't think you need to, but if that makes Ms. Karakis feels better, then treat it as an emergency and go ahead and pass it that way.
I'm not even sure that we need to take a vote on this.
We've never done this before.
We've never done this before either. I'm not sure that this is required to be voted on. We're just asking.
We've never done this. We've just.
Yeah.
Let's
The
just
superintendent's going to go ahead and advise the property appraiser of this anyway, so,
Is it required that we have a motion on this?
yeah.
Well, why don't I withdraw my motion?
Yeah, okay.
And then, because that's just action, that's
Yeah.
normal routine.
Right, okay. So for the
Right.
record, Ms. Studdard is withdrawing her
Right.
motion. Okay.
Because we've really kind of covered, let's see.
And I withdraw my second.
Yeah,
And she withdraws her second.
I think we're covered.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Karakis, appreciate that. Okay, and then the last item up is the daily hours for teachers and students revised for the 15-16, and this is a revision, and I think you guys all have a copy of it. Basically, there was a revision to the Plantation Oaks Elementary and then an additional one to Thunderbolt Elementary, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
I have a motion for approval by Ms. Karakis.
I'll second.
And a second by Ms. Condon. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, presentations from the audience. I do have, Ms. Rennelee, is this a card you wanted to speak to? Presentations from the audience? Okay. Ms. Rennelee Paiva.
Hi, Renly Paiva, representing the CCEA. I didn't know about the Thunderbolt one. We got to talk about that one. I did know about the Plantation Oak, so I'm hoping that that's going to be an easy one. Please don't forget my question in the comments about the salaries going up, even though we took $5.1 million away from them. If you could please give me an answer to that, I would appreciate it. The thing I wanted to speak about in the presentation was the AC teachers that we still have out there that haven't been placed. I have a big concern about that. Mrs. Adams went to great lengths to say that we're going to be hiring so many. We've hired 70 teachers. We have 30 teachers on the board, and we have AC teachers who still haven't been hired.
How many do we have?
We have 13, but I think 8 that constantly have gone for job interviews. So, I just went over it with Mr. Brodsky earlier. The other ones have done transfer forms and haven't gone to job interviews, and I don't know if that's vacations that are already decided. They didn't know they were going to be cut. So, sometimes you just plan that way. I did have a conversation with a few of them who were in different places, and I said, listen, you got to advocate for yourself. I can only advocate so far for you, but I am concerned. Our whole world's going to turn into AC teachers, and if it just becomes a buffet that people can just say, well, I don't know, I cut you, I give no explanation, there's no just cause, there's no reason, and the first thing another principal asks at the job interview is, well, why'd you leave the school? And the teacher becomes defensive. So then they interview poorly. And I've heard that from 3 different principals. They interviewed poorly. You asked them a question, and they interviewed defensively saying, I have no idea. The principal never called me in. I'm highly effective or effective. I've never had a discussion. The principal just said, there isn't a place for you next year. And that's the end of the conversation. No business works that way. No business. And I know it's not our fault. It's Tallahassee again. It's the 736. It's the law. But we can have some little decency around here. I mean, we can just do it right and take care of our own. Other counties are taking care of their AC teachers. And I would just, I've sent an email out, I didn't get a reply from it, but I would like to see these teachers placed. They would like to have a job. They've invested into this county, and we owe them that morally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paiva. Mr. Otto, I know that was this card intended to speak at the end? I know you came up and spoke during the public hearing, but you want to go ahead and, okay. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. James Otto, 2910 Blanding Boulevard, Sex Toys of Clay County. If you must abuse your kids in football, let's do it outside of our public schools. Our teachers are in serious need of help. There's a lot of bullying that comes from football. Let's just give it a chance. Let's take football out for a few years and let's see what happens. I gave you all a book called The League of Denial when I was here last time, and I was just wondering if any of you have read it. I presented it to the board. I don't know if I can ask questions or not. I know women can stand up and be powerful. I think you can stand up to the NFL. I really do. You can stand up against the alcohol industry. You can stand up against the NFL. You know, they abused more women this year and they made more money this year. Why do people support it? Walk away from it. Spend your money somewhere else. You know? I don't understand why people support it. I just really don't. I don't understand why our schools support it. Take it out of our schools. The judge just awarded NFL players over $680 million in an uncapped lawsuit. It could go in the billions. You guys are looking at lawsuits, I mean, so many lawsuits from kids that are getting injured in our public schools. If you want to abuse your kids, do it outside of our public schools. That's my main message to you. I mean, I really don't understand it. You know, the schools aren't made for football. They're made to educate our kids. Junior high, high school, you know, with math, arithmetic. That's the kind of stuff that we should be doing. We shouldn't be supporting bullying. And a lot of bullying in our schools comes from football. There's really no excuse for it. The county commissioners are talking about impact fees right now. You know, to my understanding, there are no impact fees. But you guys are saying impact fees are here. So that means that they're going to take away impact fees. The impact fees when you buy a piece of property and add a house, you guys you're shaking your head like you're getting impact fees for the schools, but you guys should be getting more money. You really should be. And it's totally misleading what the Board of County Commissioners is doing, because I'm going to these meetings all the time, and it sounds like there's no impact fees. I'm saying raise the impact fees and no to gas tax. They want to add a 1-cent gas tax. You know, I disagree with that. I really do. So there was a couple other questions and stuff I had. I don't know if I need to come back to you, or there's one thing I really
Your time
wanted
is
to
up,
get,
Mr. Otto. I'm
if
sorry.
I could get your opinion of what my sign says. To me, it is, you know, our schools aren't here to raise your kids. That's the parents' responsibility to raise the kids. 10 years ago, my sign wouldn't say what it says. But with the cell phones that are out there today, you need to teach your kids. And if my sign gives you the opportunity to teach your kids before the streets teach your kids, then so be it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Otto. Okay. Superintendent requests. Ms. Deputy Superintendent, do you have anything?
I just want to thank Ms. Legutko and her team for the hours and hours and weekends and evenings that they have spent preparing this budget, and thank you for being here tonight as well. And just two reminders, if you'll remember that the August regular board meeting changed from August 20th to the 27th. And hope that you've been able to check your calendars and join us on August the 6th at 11 o'clock for our administrative back-to-school luncheon. So just don't forget about your invitation. Thank you.
Thank you. School board requests. Ms. Studdard, no? Ms. Gilhousen, no? Ms. Karakis, Ms. Condon.
The only thing I would say is that I am sorry I'm not going to be able to attend the luncheon. My husband and I already had plans to go out of town for our anniversary, so I apologize that I won't be at that luncheon and to join you all, but thank you.
I will do everything that I can to be there. Okay. The only thing that I have is I want to make a public apology. During the last board meeting, there was a question that was made by Ms. Condon, and it was a very legitimate question, and I think that I interrupted you, and after I got to be thinking about it, I realized that my tone was kind of inappropriate, and And I just want to publicly apologize to tell you that I'm very, very sorry about interrupting you when you asked Ms. Legutko a very legitimate question about the budget. And I shouldn't have done that, and I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And I want the public to know that I felt pretty bad about that, and that I'm very sorry. So, and then that's all that I have. Okay, and with that, I'll adjourn this meeting.